morning I'm gathering up the wood that we have that we might be able to use for concrete forms and gonna start just working my way around building the forms. So it'll be a bit of a process because we have some larger stuff and then we have some 4-inch pieces that'll have to double up and there'll be quite a few joints. So it's not ideal and I might need to go buy some more 2x8s, but I'm gonna work with what I have and see how far we get. So yeah, just need to create the ring going the whole way around so that we can pour our grade beam.
It's okay, bud.
Ready?
Ready.
All right, concrete forms are nearly there. I had footage of the outside that I was doing a few days ago, and then mostly yesterday finished up the interior. It's a little bit finicky because I have all these little squares going around where the posts are. So the footers that we had poured, I don't know, a few weeks ago for the posts will be tied into the grade beam that goes around the outside. Yeah, I got the outside set and then basically just squared all that up, got it level, and then marked at these points where the interior of the beam comes, and then ran strings. So now I just need to basically lift the inside form and stake it level and in line with these strings. And then I will start on the rebar. I may actually end up doing rebar first because I need more screws. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Need to make some stakes possibly so that I can lift up this interior ring. We are getting close to being ready for concrete. It's, I think, normally much more straightforward because you just have a slab, so you just have an outside situation. But because we're doing a grade beam and then the earth and floor on the inside, we're using a lot less concrete, but have to build a form. So I don't know, it's trade-offs. The big plus is just less concrete, so. In and out of the boots when it's muddy. It's one of my least favorite parts. Okay, so for starters, we have this lip on the outside form, and it's basically just gonna create a low shelf or like a drop down in the beam that is gonna give us a spot to bring, we're hopefully doing a rock wall down to, and also if not, then the plaster will land on there. Just gives us a little bit of a insurance policy against water at the bottom of the wall working its way back in, because it would hit the end of it and stop there. The other thing that I'm doing is gonna add on a piece here to basically form the same thing but a drop down for the door threshold, so that in theory the door threshold is level or just slightly above the finished floor. So just mark my point where it's going to start, and I'm going to attach this right here, and it's probably going to be bigger than necessary or deeper than necessary, but I think we can make up for that with the floor. Well, that's a little bit uncertain how it's gonna work, but I like the idea of it. This is our chance to do it before there's concrete. A little rickety. We'll do what we needed to though. Oh, I'm chucking mud in. This size rebar calls for a 20-inch overlap of joints. It's probably closer to 24.
We are back working on foundation stuff today. Well, Eric's actually over there working on my chicken coop, which is exciting. But I'm just gonna go through and spray down the concrete forms with some lovely vegetable oil. This is literally the only reason you would ever see us buying vegetable oil for construction. Yeah, basically just to help the lumber release from the concrete cleaner so that we can reuse most of it. All right, I got it as good as I think I'm gonna get it. The sprayer, of course it's oil, it wasn't working great, but it worked well enough, and then I just kind of made sure it was all coated with a paper towel, some gloves, because soybean oil is just horrible. It smells so rancid, and the last thing I want is to eat it or have it on my body, so glad to be done with that. We are getting concrete today. They should be here any minute, actually. We're having a concrete truck bring the concrete for the entire perimeter of the foundation. So we're not doing a slab because we're doing the earthen floor, so it's just gonna be the exterior wall, basically foundation. So we have tried to avoid concrete as much as possible, but it's pretty inevitable. There's not really another material that can fully replace it, like a natural material. So we've kept it as minimal as possible, but we still have to have some. So we mixed the concrete for the footers by hand and did those about a month ago. And so we're having concrete brought for this, which I'm very glad to not be hand mixing for the entire perimeter. So we have sprayed down the wood, the forms, already once today. We'll do that once more right before they're gonna dump. And I also coated them in that oil about a week ago. So that's been soaking in, and that'll just make it a lot easier to get the forms off and be able to reuse the wood. And then I also have a kind of like a compound mixture that I'm gonna make a paste out of, basically, to paint on top of the concrete footers to bond the new concrete to that, because it won't bond if you don't make it, if you don't paint like a bonding agent over it. So I'm gonna be doing that. Eric's meeting him down the hill, make sure they can get to the right place and get up the hill okay. So yeah, it's a big step for us. We're pretty excited. It is one of the last things with the foundation. Maybe the last thing, but I won't speak too soon. So last looks before it's all covered in concrete. There's a footer in there. That is what I will be painting that compound on. So all the rebar is in place, all of our bolts that will come up through, that the rest of the structure will be tied to, are in place. And we have duct tape over all the screws so they don't get filled with concrete, so we can remove everything easily. We have all this wire so that the rebar is suspended. So we'll be taking that off, which I just learned this, Eric told me last night. That all needs to be removed, so you have to put it in so that you can remove it, because the rebar needs to be fully suspended in the concrete and not touching anything else, because especially that wire can transfer rust all the way to the rebar, and then it will actually travel along the rebar within the concrete, and that can cause some big issues. So I'm learning a lot, to say the least. Here is that bonding agent. So he just told me this is like some concrete in here, and he put a line on there for me. Yeah, so I'll fill that with sand up to that line right before they're gonna pour, and then I'll mix this until it's like a slurry consistency, and then paint it onto the footers. Well, concrete's in.
It's in. We have done it.
We have a lot of work to do now to get it evened out and just make sure that it's all level and filled in some spots, so we have a little bit of a reserve in the wheelbarrow. But
That went so well.
yeah, it was like 10-15 minutes total pouring, it seemed like.
Probably more than that.
Maybe a little more,
I
but
just feel like it was going so fast because we were moving really.
yeah. He's almost down the driveway in the truck. He's just washing it out, but yeah, it's nice to have that part done.
There you go. Okay.
So we got all of the concrete forms off. Thanks so much to Eric's parents. Oh, it's scraping. But everything looks really good. There's no clear issues or anything like that. So we're just getting them scraped off a little bit and swept. And yeah, it's just really exciting to see it progress even that much more. We are currently unloading our timbers for the cottage. We've been really excited to just be able to get started, and it's making it all feel very real. So this is from the sawmill that we visited a couple of weeks ago. They're massive, so it's taking a while to get them unloaded. We had to borrow our neighbor Jerry's tractor because it's stronger than ours. So we're up here at the front of our property getting them unloaded, and then we will transport them way up the hill to the build site. So probably gonna take most of the day.
Okay, we have some piles of wood. Just finished unloading the sawmill truck. All of that right there is rafters. And then behind the tractor, we've got all of our posts and plates, the big boys. So it went decently well, but it's just challenging when you don't have like a good pad and especially a forklift to unload this stuff. But we got it done. Now we just have to make tons of trips up the hill with it.